Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're putting on our medical detective hats and stepping right into the middle of an active public health investigation. We're going to trace a fascinating and honestly kind of alarming medical mystery that starts in a place most of us visit without a second thought, the local grocery store deli counter. We're going to break down exactly how an outbreak like this happens, how the pros track it, and the science behind the silent little pathogens that can occasionally end up right in our kitchens. So get comfortable, focus in, and let's unravel this mystery together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, health investigators in Illinois are trying to figure out one absolutely critical question. What on earth links a sudden, severe illness to the deli counter? You've got three people, totally unrelated to each other, who have suddenly fallen seriously ill with a bacterial infection. The one common denominator they found? A specific cold-cut product sold under the Daisy brand name. But, tracing a foodborne illness isn't as simple as just asking someone what they had for lunch yesterday. It takes a ton of meticulous backtracking and hardcore scientific testing to actually prove a definitive link between the grocery store and a hospital bed.
Chapter 1. Tracking the Deli Outbreak. Investigating the Illinois illnesses.
So, tracing a contaminated food source takes some serious investigative legwork. On day one, a patient shows up at the hospital, they're super sick, and they test positive for a bacteria called Listeria. Boom! That immediately kicks off a massive health department protocol. Days later, officials start the tedious process of interviewing the patient about literally everything they've eaten over the past several weeks. They're looking for patterns, cross-referencing with other sick folks. Eventually, all that digging points to a specific deli meat. Finally, weeks later, investigators secure an unopened package of Daisy brand from a store and run lab tests. Bam, it tests positive for Listeria bacteria. Now, just a quick aside here, investigators are still working to sequence the DNA to confirm if the bacteria strain in the food exactly matches the strain found in the sick people, but the connection is absolutely strong enough to trigger immediate action.
Chapter 2. What is head cheese anyway? Demystifying the deli product.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the great ironies of the culinary world. Despite the very explicit name, head cheese contains absolutely zero cheese. None. It's actually a cold-cut meat product traditionally made from parts of a pig or a calf. They slowly cook it down until the natural collagens form a jelly, which is then pressed into a loaf shape and chilled. Then it's sliced thin right there at the deli counter, exactly like turkey or ham. The specific Daisy brand head cheese we're talking about was sold predominantly at deli counters across Illinois and Indiana.
Chapter 3. The cold surviving bacteria. Meet Listeria monocytogenes.
Okay, so why are deli meats so frequently at the center of these health scares? Well, it all comes down to temperature. With typical bacteria, the stuff that causes food to spoil, the cold basically puts it to sleep. Your refrigerator stops it from growing. But Listeria monocytogenes, it plays by a totally different set of rules. It actually survives and thrives in the chilly temperatures of your refrigerator. And because head cheese is a ready-to-eat food, meaning you aren't going to cook it before you eat it, any Listeria that tagged along from the deli counter is just going to keep right on multiplying in your fridge at home, completely unfazed by the cold. Now, what's really interesting about this number is just how staggering it is. 70. That represents the maximum incubation period in days for Listeria. Think about that. You could eat a contaminated slice of head cheese today, and you might not start feeling sick for over 2 months. This incredibly long 70-day window is precisely why Listeria outbreaks are notoriously difficult for health officials to trace. Imagine trying to remember exactly what you had for lunch 70 days ago. It makes that timeline we looked at earlier even more impressive, doesn't it?
So, when those symptoms do finally show up, what are we looking at? Well, for a healthy adult, a Listeria infection might easily be mistaken for a typical flu. The early signs include a fever, general muscle aches, and maybe some nausea or diarrhea. But make no mistake, this isn't your standard 24-hour stomach bug. Listeria is invasive. In severe cases, the bacteria can actually spread beyond the gut and into the nervous system, leading to a severe headache, confusion, or a dangerously stiff neck. Given how serious these symptoms can be, you might be expecting to see a massive nationwide recall flashing across the news. But that's not actually happening here.
Chapter 4. Warning without a recall. The bureaucratic nuance.
The whole reason there is no formal traditional recall is entirely due to the calendar. The specific Daisy brand product tied to these illnesses had a printed use-by date of March 26, 2026. Now, since we're doing this explainer on May 11th, 2026, the product is well past its designated shelf life. By law and standard practice, it's just no longer being actively sold at deli counters or stocked on grocery store shelves. You can't technically recall a product from stores if it's already legally required to be off the shelves. But hey, just because it's not on store shelves definitely does not mean the danger is gone. That's exactly why the USDA issued a formal public health alert instead. This quote perfectly captures their core message to the public. If you bought this head cheese months ago and threw it in the back of your freezer, the bacteria is basically just hanging out in deep freeze, waiting. Freezing does not kill Listeria. So the urgent message is crystal clear. Check your storage, and if you have it, absolutely do not consume it.
Chapter 5: Symptoms and Next Steps. Identifying vulnerabilities and taking action. Let's move on and see how this builds a really clear picture of who is truly in danger. While a healthy adult might just feel a bit lousy, Listeria is devastating for vulnerable populations. The elderly, newborns, and anyone with a compromised immune system face severe, life-threatening complications if infected. But I want to heavily emphasize the extreme risk to pregnant women here. The mother herself might only experience mild flu-like symptoms, but the bacteria can aggressively cross the placenta. This can result in severe illness for the baby, premature delivery, or tragically, a miscarriage. Because the stakes are literally life and death for those vulnerable groups, the recommended action plan is absolute and non-negotiable. If you discover this Daisy brand head cheese in your home, follow these 3 steps exactly. First, throw the product away immediately. Don't even open it to check if it smells bad because you cannot smell or taste Listeria. Second, thoroughly clean and sanitize any refrigerator shelves, drawers, or containers that the package may have touched. Remember, Listeria thrives in the cold, so a contaminated fridge shelf is a lingering hazard. And third, if you or someone in your household falls into one of those high-risk categories we just discussed, recently ate the product, and is feeling unwell, do not wait. Contact a doctor immediately and explicitly mention your potential exposure to Listeria. So the crucial point is this number right here, 3. At this exact moment, there are only 3 known illnesses connected to this outbreak. I want to be very clear, this is not currently a massive nationwide emergency causing panic in the streets. But because Listeria is just so insanely resilient, and because contaminated food can sometimes stay in circulation or sit forgotten in home freezers, health agencies are watching this tiny number very, very closely. They act fast to ensure that 3 doesn't quickly turn into 30 or 300. We've explored the timeline, the wild science of the bacteria, and the bureaucratic response. But it all ultimately comes back to your kitchen. That 70-day incubation period means outbreaks can linger like ghosts in our food supply. So, I leave you with this thought to consider today. Is your fridge harboring a 70-day secret? And are you prepared to check? Thank you for walking through this explainer with me. Stay informed, stay safe, and always keep asking questions about the world around you.